right, how's everyone doing tonight? We are the Tripwire Podcast, part of the Triple Play Fantasy family, which is now part of the Fantasy Points Media Group. We're here every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, right before Monday Night Football. We talk about the waiver wire picks for the following week. So we're already on to week 13, which is insane. Best way to support us is to subscribe to the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel. Just hit that subscribe button, and you can follow us all on Twitter as well. So how's it going, Alex and Toby? How you guys doing tonight?
Not too bad. How's it going, Zach? Troy?
Going great.
Pretty good.
Thanksgiving weekend.
Toe feels better.
Good. He'll be with the toe injury, questionable. So we have a very special guest tonight. So he is a fantasy football content creator for Yahoo Fantasy and Football Guys. He's a co-host of the Football Guys Mailbag Show, and he's one of the newest members of the FSWA. And I have to call him the trailblazer of Thirsty Thursdays. It's Troy King. How's it going, man?
Hey, man. Thank you for the intro, man. I'm doing great. I'm excited to be chopping up with you guys. You know, Monday Night Football. I know we got a lot of great stuff to talk about, so I appreciate you inviting me on the show.
No problem. And before we get started, the people want to know, where did Thirsty Thursdays come from? And then where can the people buy that thirst-quenching Thirsty Thursday swag?
Sure. So for the Thirsty Thursday swag, you can buy that at Viridian Global. So if you just go to Viridian Global and type in Thirsty Thursdays, you'll find all my stuff there. So you can definitely check it out. We have some great merchandise, so I definitely recommend it, not being biased. But Thirsty Thursdays, shout out to Linda G. So it came from kind of a misunderstanding, right? So we were in texting one time, and she was telling, and we were talking about the word thirsty, right? And then, you know, Thirsty Thursdays apparently is a drinking holiday for most people. And then I was explaining that for me, when I think of thirsty, I think of being thirsty. So then I put a poll. Obviously, Linda's side for like a drinking holiday won by a lot, right? So it was like 82%, you know, for drinking holiday. But there was like 18% that was on my side. So then it kind of sparked debate, like, wait, who are this 18%? So it's kind of sparked this entire debate on like, wait, y'all really think it means this? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to run with it. So then and this was in January of this year. So ever since then, every Thursday, I just kept rolling with it. And then kind of took on a life of its own. And then everybody associates Thursday with being, you know, thirsty. And then here we are today. Now it's a rolling joke, and I love it.
Awesome. Yeah. I love all the swag you can get at Viridian Global. So definitely check it out if you guys are thirsty for some Thirsty Thursday. So I don't know if you guys can believe it, but we're already talking about week 13, which is insane. So for most people out there, you probably have 2 weeks left in your league for the regular season. So we're in crunch time. You're trying to get every last win you can to make the playoffs. Or hopefully you're already in, but you never know. So this week we have 4 teams on bye. We have the Carolina Panthers, the Cleveland Browns, the Green Bay Packers, and the Tennessee Titans. So a lot of players are going to be missing. And then for those of you who didn't realize it, there's buys in week 14 as well. So just to get you prepared, there's 4 teams: the Indianapolis Colts, the Miami Dolphins, the New England Patriots, and the Philadelphia Eagles. So a lot of heavy hitters are going to be out the next 2 weeks. So now's the time to think about it, plan for even week 14, because like I said, it's a crucial week for you to win that last game to get into the playoffs. You're going to be missing a lot of guys like Jonathan Taylor, for example. So we wanted to kick it off with quarterbacks as always, and we had to talk about the one Miami Dolphins on this list, seeing as you're a huge Dolphins fan, Troy. So how do we feel about Tua after he's had some great games, very accurate, I would say, the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think he was about 83% or something like that on Sunday. And since week 6, so since returning from his injury, he's actually QB 11 in points per game. And that's including the game with the Ravens game where he only played, you know, a limited portion of the game. So Tua's been on fire, right? So Tua's been killing it ever since he's come back. Look, I would easily stream him over a bunch of guys that, you know, who are supposed to be, you know, locked in starters, but there's a lot of starters who have been a lot of inconsistent, and Tua's been fairly consistent ever since he's come back. So I highly suggest, you know, if you're in a pinch, you know, obviously, you know, Zach read off all those bye weeks. The worst people to start than Tua. I would start him confidently in the matchups going forward, at least for, you know, the next 2 weeks, if you have to.
Perfect. And he's not on the screen, but Taysom Hill, we just found out, looks like he's going to be a starter. He's only 2.2% rostered. He's got Dallas. They're playing Thursday night So we haven't seen much of him this year as a QB, but if you're in a deeper league, he might be a quick grab without having to splash too much cash. Then you can get him on your lineup. But it looks like people are excited to have you on, Troy. We got Faith.
What's up, Faith?
We got our buddy Jacob.
Hey, what's up, Jacob?
From the team. So thank you guys. Like I said, if anybody has any questions out there, Twitter still doesn't work. Sorry. You can get on Facebook or YouTube to send us any questions you got. But we're going to move on to running backs, which is really the meat and potatoes of the waiver wire this week. That's where all the exciting action is going on. So I want to kick it to Tobe. Talk about Jamal Williams, which does not sound like an exciting name, but we have no idea if DeAndre Swift is going to play. And the reports today did not sound promising for this week. So how do you feel about Jamal Williams this week?
I mean, if he's out there, I mean, I'd still put guys like Madison above him just because I think they're in a better run scheme, better offense. But I mean, Jamal, even when Swift was healthy for the first about 5-6 weeks, he was a top 24 running back, and he had Swift playing alongside him. So we know he can do it. And then when Swift went down on Thanksgiving, he had 15 carries for like 65 yards. We know he can handle a workload. They signed him to be able to handle a workload because of Swift's like concussion recency. And then he can catch the ball out of the backfield too, so a good PPR back. And they're always going to – the Lions aren't a good team. They're going to be behind. So having a guy like Jamal Williams who's getting the full workload, I'm not scared about the other guys whose last name I can't pronounce. But he scored a long touchdown not too long ago. But I'm not scared of him taking too much work away from him. So I think he's going to get 15 to 20 carries and probably 5 to 7 receptions, and that's what we need with all these running back injuries. If you have fab left, you're going to spend all you have. I don't know. I don't know if I blow a top waiver, only if Madison and Hubbard aren't there, but I like him.
Cool. That actually leads me to probably the number one pickup that we're going to probably recommend, Troy. So we're talking about Alexander Madison. We don't know how long Dalvin Cook is going to be out. Some are saying it could be a week, 2 weeks. I mean, for all we know, he could go on IR. It could be the season. I'd like to believe you probably at least get him for the next 2 weeks to end the regular season. So I guess one is, how do you feel about Alexander Madison? And then two is, would you spend everything you got left to get him?
Absolutely, I'd spend everything I had left. So I feel like Alex said, we've had this discussion with him. I feel like it's felt like for the last 10 years, but it's probably been for the last like 3 years, right? Alexander Madison has always been the top handcuff because unfortunately Dalvin Cook, he gets banged up. And we even saw this year, I believe it was the game against Seattle. We saw Alexander Madison fill in. He looked like Dalvin Cook. And then even this last game, he ended up with like 10 PPR points, and obviously he didn't play the whole game in terms of the starter, but we know that he's utilized heavily when Cook isn't there, right? And for me, at this point in time, beggars can't be choosers. And he's the top pick, no questions asked. I would absolutely blow up my fab on him. I'm excited. I wish I had him in more leagues because I have Dalvin Cook in some leagues and I don't have Alexander Madison, and I'm very sad about it. But yeah, 100%, he's the top pickup for me.
No, that brings up a great point though, because I'm shocked that he's 33.7% rostered right now on ESPN. Because at this time of year, like you said, you have Dalvin Cook and you wish you had Madison. Like, now's the time where if you got through enough of your bye weeks with your roster, I mean, every roster is different. Now's the time you should be picking up players like Madison, hopefully ahead of schedule. Not to toot my own horn, but I mean, I've had them in the Beat the Waiver Wire tweet that I send out on Sunday mornings of like, hey, here's a guy to grab that's under 50% rostered, because you just never know. Now, obviously, we never want to see anybody get injured, but that's the whole point of beating the waiver wires. If somebody gets injured, now you don't have to spend all your fab and hope that you have the most fab in your league, because I guarantee you, if you don't have the most fab in your league, you're not getting Alexander Madison.
Absolutely.
This week. But then that leads us to another unfortunate injury, which it sucks that this is all happening at the end, is Christian McCaffrey, we found out today, is going on IR. He's done for the year. So that leads us to Chuba Hubbard. So Alex, even though the Panthers are one of our week 13 buys, so you can't play Chuba this week. One, how do you feel about Chuba? How's he been this season? And then how much would you be willing to spend, and or is he a priority for you?
So he's definitely my number 2 priority this week behind Madison, just everything that Troy alluded to. But when Hubbard did have the full role in Philly, he had, his first game against Philly, he had 2 20-carry games in that role when CMC was first on IR. He was on the field a lot. And yes, he might not have that premier pass-catching role with Carolina with Amir Abdullah, but if Cam Newton's really completing 20% of his passes and PJ Walker's the backup, do those targets really mean anything? So he'll still see his 18 to 20 touches a game. And if you can't get Madison, I would absolutely add Hubbard and just keep him on your roster. Hopefully get him in week 14. At this point of the season, I'm just trying to have as many back-end handcuffs on my roster. I'm not going to waste those spaces on receivers because at this point you can really get away with playing 2-3 receivers at the most and just your flexes with running backs. So really try and get that upside going into the playoffs and have a league winner. Sure.
And then speaking of the Carolina backups, Amir Abdullah, he's kind of a blast from the past. He's actually looked decent this year. He's gotten some run, especially as a third down running back. He's only 0.2% rostered right now. So you can get him pretty much in any league you're in. Is he worth stashing this week, even though you can't play him? This is for anybody. Or do you just kind of want to see what happens next week?
I would say, because I was actually kind of similar to you in terms of your beat the waiver wire. I said on my mailbag show about Amir Abdullah, and kind of Alex was alluding to, if Cam's, had another performance like he did on Sunday, it's not going to matter. But I'd like to believe that he won't look that horrible. And to me, I believe that the Carolina Panthers, just based off the way they look, they're going to have to play from behind. So I'm expecting him to be, involved in terms of playing catch-up. Depends on the game script. But in full PPR leagues, again, beggars can't be choosers, right? I like the pass-catching role. And then we've seen him, even when Christian McCaffrey was first coming back, we saw Amir Abdullah, again, involved in that pass-catching role. So, and this is for deeper leagues, right? Hopefully, if you're in the playoffs, you shouldn't need to rely on Amir Abdullah. But there are plenty of people who play, 12, 14-team leagues and, with multiple flex spots, I would say that if you had to throw him in there, I don't think he's going to kill you, right? Hopefully. And again, it depends. Game script's going to be a lot to do with it. And he's clearly, bottom of the priorities compared to the other guys we mentioned. But, again, he's so unowned and you could get him for free. So it doesn't hurt, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to take a swing on Abdullah on the back end of your roster. Like you said, PPR, he's going to have a decent role. So realistically, you want to get 10 to 11 PPR points for like your back end RB2 or like a deep flex. And at this point with that negative game strip, they're going to be throwing a lot. So he could easily put that up and be playable. And you'd rather have a guy like that who you can take a chance on rather than like a receiver who's going to see 4 targets a game and do nothing with them.
Yeah. And I think you get him at probably a $0 bid, $1 bid. You're going to have to stash him this week anyway. But Tobe, I didn't think we'd ever talk about this player this season. But he's looked good for the last couple of weeks. He's in a split backfield, which they seem to like. They always are. But we're talking about Matt Breida of the Buffalo Bills. He gets New England this week, so not an easy matchup. Only 5.6% rostered. So you can probably pick him up. So is this your number 3 guy to pick up?
Number 4, probably behind Jamal.
Okay.
So it'd probably be Madison, Hubbard, Jamal, then Breida. I mean, he's looked better than Singletary. He hasn't outrushed Singletary or anything, but when he gets the ball, he looks explosive. He looks like he has extra kick in his step. He's found the end zone twice out of the past 3 weeks, and he looks like he's gaining Josh Allen's trust to actually dump the ball down instead of Josh Allen running. So, I mean, they're a good team. They're getting healthier on the offensive line, so we could see more of a run game. Zach Moss being a healthy scratch nowadays is making it more of an incentive to just maybe stash him on your bench in case we do have another one of these injuries. I mean, we're missing Cook, Kamara, Henry, CMC. I mean, your first 4 picks of the first round, so you're scratching for guys now. So if you have any of those and you don't have Fab, you could probably throw a minimum bet at Breida and land him on your team and still get decent points out of your running back because you can't chase a Madison, Hubbard, or Jamal Williams this week.
Yeah, no, and he kind of reminds me of not the same player at all, but just kind of like the burst of speed. It's kind of like a Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard, how when you see Tony Pollard get on the field, he just looks faster. It kind of reminds me of Matt Breida. Like when he gets on there, he just looks faster. It doesn't always result in anything, but he just looks like he's got a kick. So I mean, he definitely feels more exciting than Singletary. We'll see if he ends up outplaying him. But I think he's worth the session. I think we've learned with this many running backs this week is it almost you just need to kind of prioritize however you're going to do it, put a bid in for all of them, and just rank it, and then just hopefully you're happy with who you end up getting. But I think that you want to put in multiple bids this week.
And to a point on him being my number 4 right now, we got news that Darrell Henderson has a quad strain. Mm-hmm. So if we get more available news before waivers, I'd probably move Sonny Michel tied with Jamal Williams if Henderson's going to miss time. Maybe even over Chuba this week if you really need somebody, since Chuba is on a bye. So if we get more definitive news on Henderson not looking like he's going to play, Sonny Michel bumps up a lot as well.
No, great point. He's only 23.5% roster, so he's going to be available in 3/4 of your leagues on ESPN. And like you said, for me, Chuba, I kind of have him lower just because of the bye week this week, and then he's got a tough schedule going forward. So I think you got to rank them however you want to rank them, and then bid for all of them. But for me, if you need a win right now, you need to pick up the guys that are playing this week. So that's just why I put Chuba a little bit lower. There was not a lot of guys wide receiver wise to talk about. There's just not a lot out there that meet our criteria of under 50% that are really worth talking about. Otherwise, you just kind of grab whoever you want to grab. But the one I wanted to highlight specifically, because we just haven't talked about it, because we've talked about Rashad Bateman for 6 weeks now, is Van Jefferson. He gets a great matchup against Jacksonville. I mean, he had one big play, which is great, but hey, it's always possible in that offense. So at 42.3% rostered, is he one of your favorite pickups for a wide receiver, Troy, or do you like somebody else? And just how do you feel about Van Jefferson?
I would say when it comes to the waiver wire, right, you want to, at this point, you want to get a receiver who, even if they don't get a lot of volume, they're tied to an exciting offense. I think a player that I actually like a little bit better than him, who just passed the screen, I like Kadarius Toney, but Kadarius Toney, he's been banged up dealing with injuries. But also Russell Gage. Russell Gage has actually looked really good the past 2 weeks. And in the past 2 weeks, he's also scored. And we know that obviously, Calvin Ridley, is out due to his, the mental health stuff. And we know that, Pitts, for whatever reason, defenses are just focusing all their attention on Pitts and they're taking him out of the game plan. And I thought that Gage wasn't going to really see any action because CPAT was back this week. But again, he found the end zone. He's involved in this offense. So to me, and also Atlanta Falcons are always in negative game scripts for the most part, even though they just won. For the most part, they're negative game scripts. I think that favors Gage. And I know that the Rams are on a losing streak. So I don't mind Van Jefferson. It's just that the targets, are going to be unreliable. As OBJ is continuing to learn more and more about the offense, I think he's going to eventually take over that number 2 role. So he's not bad, but again, deeper play, he's going to be a flex option. You're hoping for a touchdown, right? Either a touchdown or a long pass from Matthew Stafford. So he's fine, but I'm tempering my expectations on him.
Yeah. And it's going to be sooner than later. OBJ did see 10 targets yesterday.
Exactly.
So it's going to be sooner than later.
Gage has a decent schedule coming up as well, leading into the playoffs, and even I think 1 week out of the playoffs, he has a real easy matchup. So I haven't been big on Van Jefferson like everybody else, or even like LQ is. He's like the president of the fan club. So I mean, I haven't been the biggest, and then with OBJ seeing 10 targets yesterday, I mean, Van Jefferson's going to catch that deep ball every now and then, just because he's going to get over the top, but I think Russell Gage going forward, especially if Calvin Ridley does not come back this season, is going to see an increased role as they progress with their terrible offense.
That sounds great. So for tight ends, there wasn't a whole lot that were available under 50% that we haven't already talked about for the last month. But so we cheated a little bit. So we're going to talk about Logan Thomas. He is playing tonight. He just got off IR, so he should be on the field right now. He's 51.4% roster, so he's just over that threshold, but we want to talk about him because it was so close. He's been out for a while. He's been banged up all year. Really, Alex, what I wanted you to talk about is why are we even talking about Logan Thomas? And honestly, I think it's because of his schedule. Can you tell everyone what his playoff schedule is?
Philly, Dallas, Philly again. He gets the tight end slump busters to finish off the season. He can realistically have 2 15-point games just against Philly. And at this point, you want guys who are going to put up a non-zero. When Thomas is on the field and healthy, he sees 5 to 7 targets a game. That's almost guaranteed a non-zero, unless you're Mike Gesicki or TJ Hawkinson. But we're not going to go too deep on that. But Thomas, he has the potential to be that guy who could steal you a league, especially if you have Darren Waller or George Kittle, who's been underperforming this year.
Perfect. And your Darren Waller led me to – I want to talk about Foster Moreau real quick, who we just found out that Darren Waller – I mean, we knew Darren Waller has been hurt since last Thursday, but we haven't really got a lot of information. What is a IT band, knee injury? Even our awesome PT guys out there on Twitter, they don't even really understand what that means for him going forward and what that prognosis is. There's just not enough information out there, understandably. So Foster Moreau is 0.6% rostered, which means he's pretty much available everywhere. So I think he's a sneaky pickup this week. They're going against Washington, who's playing right now. They're not a great defense this year, especially passing. And we've seen Foster Moreau look good with Waller on the field and when Waller's been banged up. So I think he's one of those just sneaky as you might be able, especially in your league, if they're not really paying attention. You can probably get him for free, and he might get you a touchdown week 13 or week 14 if Waller's not back soon.
I also think if Andy Dalton's a starter for Chicago going against Arizona, Cole Kmet is really interesting. We saw one of Cole Kmet's best games this season. The Cole Kmet fan club went crazy on Thanksgiving. And I think if Fields is a starter, I would temper expectations on Kmet, but Dalton is. I mean, we saw Jimmy Graham score. Kmet had one of his best days. He just likes throwing the tight end. He's a veteran guy. We would think the rookie wants to have a safety blanket, but Andy Dalton seems more of the better quarterback suited for these Bears tight ends. And especially if A-Rob continues to be out, then Kmet is another good tight end that you could find for a non-zero.
Perfect. And before we go to DSTs, just want to talk about Monkey Knife Fight real quick. So if you guys are already out of the playoffs, I'm sorry. We tried to help you more, but you can still have fun with fantasy. You can still make some money. This goes with all sports, not just football. It's basically like prop betting. You're picking fantasy points, yardage, touchdowns, all sorts of different things. If you're a first-time user, sign up with code TRIPLEPLAY, and Monkey Knife Fight will match up to $100 of your first deposit as long as you deposit $10. So free money for you, lots of fun to play, and you can still have fun learning from what we're talking about, even if your team's already out of it, because you can make some money off of us. So go ahead, check out Monkey Knife Fight. Like I said, use code TRIPLEPLAY. So defenses this week, not as bad as last week, I think, that are under 50%. We have, let's see, Miami Dolphins gets the New York Giants, which is always giving up turnovers. They're 43.7% roster. We got the Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Jets, which we have no idea which quarterback is going to be playing. Depends on COVID protocols and how healthy Zach Wilson is. They're 42.8% rostered. And then Minnesota Vikings get Detroit. It's Detroit, and it looks like DeAndre Swift isn't playing. They're 14.5% roster. So out of those three, do you guys have a favorite, or would you just kind of bid on all of them and see which one you get?
Miami Dolphins, Philadelphia Eagles are my favorite.
All right.
Yeah, the Eagles have a really favorable schedule. They don't have another juggernaut offense till week 18 against Dallas. So if you can, we play the Jets, Washington twice, and New York. So if you can hold the Eagles through the week 14 bye, they can be a league-winning defense going into the playoffs too.
I think this Dolphins defense has took a turn from what we saw at the beginning of the season. We're starting to see what we saw last year, just creating turnovers at a crazy pace. Jalen Phillips is coming into his own late in the season. So sack numbers are starting to come. And you just have two ball-hawking corners on the outside with Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. So if they're getting that pressure, picks are going to come their way. And Javon Holland.
Oh, Javon Holland, man. He's been a surprise.
If it wasn't for Micah Parsons right now, we'd be talking more about Javon Holland.
Yes.
You're speaking Troy's love language right now, talking about the Miami.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, I can talk about this all night.
So, but it's a great point, though, Alex. You brought up this bye week. So the Dolphins and the Eagles both have a bye week in week 14. So if you're picking them up to use week 13, great matchups. You still have to plan ahead for week 14, or just keep that in the back of your mind. Do you have the roster to be able to drop them and pick somebody else up? Can you stash them? Just things to think about as you look at your roster. So we talked to you guys.
Actually hold the Eagles defense week 14 over a Jamison Crowder, a Tyler Boyd, a Marvin Jones, a receiver who's the only way they're going to see your lineup is if the starting 7 other receivers on your roster go down. At that point, you want to put yourself in the best opportunity for the playoffs. And it may be a little bit of my Philly bias, but I think the Eagles have that potential for you in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And let's be honest, if you're planning for week 14 and you're not going to make the playoffs anyway, who cares?
Yeah.
And if you are going to make the playoffs, then you do want to stash. So we talked about a lot of players to pick up, especially running backs, which means you got to drop somebody. So I got a list of players that are 50% rostered and above on ESPN. I'm just going to go through them. If there's anybody you disagree with, feel free to speak up and just say, hey, maybe not this week, or I can never drop them. There's some tough ones on this list, but now that we're down to the nitty gritty, you got to take emotion out of it. You got to build the best roster you can and get guys that can help you win. So the first one for me is QB Russell Wilson, 90.1% rostered. He's playing right now. So obviously we're recording
balls out tonight.
I still can't drop Russ yet.
We haven't seen it play. Okay, let's say, Alex, let's say he's terrible tonight. Obviously, we don't know. The game's going on right now. Let's say he's terrible like last week. Do you trust him?
I think I said last week I'd give him this week. If he can't perform this week, I will start streaming.
All right.
Yeah, I'd have to consider it too. But he has
a tough playoff schedule.
Dropping Russell Wilson. It just seems like toxic to do that.
I feel like
I couldn't.
I'm with Alex, man. Like, I don't get me wrong. Like, based off performance, I just want to know, like, is it just taking a couple games just to come back from the failure? That's what I'm saying. Like, we know he doesn't suck, but it's like the last thing you want to do is like drop him and your opponent picks him up for the playoffs and uses him against you,
and he puts up 40.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, I would cry myself to sleep for like. But I understand. I get it though. I get it.
It's similar to like the Keenan Allen situation last year. I'd rather go down with him, in my lineup than lose with him on my bench.
Agree.
Fair enough. All right, I think everyone's going to agree with me on this one though. Is QB Ryan Tannehill, 70.8% roster.
Get him out of here.
He's on a bye this week, and all of his weapons are on IR. All right, another terrible week and going on bye. QB Cam Newton. Do you hold him through the bye? 65.2% rostered.
Nah, no, not after yesterday's performance.
Perfect. All right, so we already talked about Christian McCaffrey going on IR. He's done for the year, so unless you're in a keeper league or something like that, you can drop Christian McCaffrey. He's 99.8% rostered, which means he's on everyone's league. So at this point, unless it's a keeper league, dynasty, you're dropping him. How about Michael Carter, 81% rostered? He's on IR. He's out at least 2 more games. We could be longer. If you need to clear a roster spot, are you dropping Michael Carter?
I mean, yeah. Right now, look, especially if you're trying to make the playoffs, he's not someone I have to have on my bench. Like, it don't matter if I have him on my bench or I don't make the playoffs. You know,
yeah.
I don't care about the toilet bowl that much.
Especially if it's for one of the 4 running backs we all talked about.
Oh yeah,
I would absolutely pick them up.
Cool. I think this is an easy one. We've been talking about it for weeks, and people have been hesitant except for the last couple of weeks, but I think you guys are all on my side now. Mike Davis, still 59.2% rostered.
Should have been dropped 10 weeks ago.
Yeah. We've been talking about it for a month. Dropping them.
I actually had a stat where Cordell Patterson's game Sunday had more rushing yards Sunday than Mike Davis has from week 7 to, I think, 12. Yesterday's game. To 12. Yeah, insane.
That's all you need to know. Drop Mike Davis.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're moving to wide receivers. So A.J. Brown, 98.7% rostered. So he's on IR. Hopefully he's back, in 3 weeks? Or he missed 2 weeks after this game. So we still have 2 more games. So week 15 maybe. So he's coming back into your playoffs. If you need a roster spot, do you consider dropping him?
I feel like that's the toughest one. If it's not for Madison,
not bad.
If you're not getting Madison, then I'm keeping A.J. Brown.
I agree, because again, you could have him for the playoffs. So I'm like, I'm keeping him.
Or he could do nothing in the playoffs.
Yeah. He gets the 49ers, Dolphins.
I'll keep him.
All right. I just like to make it tough for you guys. All right, how about Jarvis Landry? He definitely is banged up, but he's playing 77.6% rostered. Can you trust him?
If it's for one of the running backs, kind of we talked about, otherwise I'll keep him.
Agreed. Not dropping for another receiver.
What about Corey Davis of the Jets?
Oh, he could buy.
You can drop him.
Well, he is currently 72.3% rostered.
Goodbye. Get him out of here.
All right, Marvin Jones, 70.2% rostered of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Bye.
All right. Allen Robinson. We've been talking about him for a month now, too. He's 70% rostered.
Everyone that was left on that screen, goodbye.
Yeah, see you later.
All right, so the ones left are Emmanuel Sanders, 69.7% rostered, Buffalo Bills. Kenny Galladay of the New York Giants, 61.8% rostered. We've talked about him for a month. And
You couldn't
Robbie
do
Anderson.
anything against Steven Nelson, so
There you go. We got
Gotta
Robbie
go.
Anderson, 53.1% rostered. Please get this man off your team. He's not going to help you.
Please.
Yeah, everyone got teased by that touchdown. What was it? What one catch on 2 targets? He got a touchdown 2 weeks ago.
I was optimistic.
and people thought he was back.
Yeah, no, he's not back. Get rid of him.
It's like, joke's on you. I was never here.
Perfect. That's everyone I have to shout out. So it looks like we got a lot of guys off your rosters. Hopefully they've been clogging them up. So definitely some tough ones to think about though as you get ready for the playoffs. So as we wrap this up, Troy, can you just remind everyone where they can find you, all of your content, and feel free to plug whatever you got going on.
Of course. What's up, y'all? Again, appreciate you guys having me. You can find me at T King Mode on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Again, you can find all my work at Yahoo Fantasy as well as on Football Guys. And that's really about it. Right now, I just got my YouTube content coming out, just quick videos about like 2 minutes long, just, recaps, player spotlights, things like that. And again, just my content on Yahoo and Football Guys. And that's about it. Just keep rocking with me. I try to have fun on Twitter, but yeah, just follow me and appreciate everybody's support.
Awesome. Appreciate you having you on. And Alex and Toby, you guys got anything going on this week?
Nah, trade deadline's passed. It's a pretty late week for me right now.
Awesome.
Wallpaper Wednesday. That's about it.
You've been having a lot of graphics coming out recently.
Yeah, it's 6
They're always
wallpapers
fire,
last
man.
Thursday.
Yeah, so definitely make sure you're following Alex, Troy, and Toby. You don't want to miss any of that content. We'll be here next Monday to get you ready for Week 14, the final week of your regular season, most likely 8 p.m. We got another special guest. Like I said, Triple Play Fantasy covers 3 major sports. We got football, basketball, baseball. We have a lot going on our YouTube, so you want to subscribe. For football, we got multiple shows every week. For basketball, our Waiver Wire show has been hopping. The guys are putting out great content. And then baseball, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to baseball news, but a lot of free agency going on. So you want to hop on our YouTube, check out all the stuff going on, depending on what fantasy you play. We got it covered for you. So again, subscribe, follow us on Twitter as well, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a great night. Good luck in these last couple weeks.
Good night, y'all.